Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to your conference today. I hope I can live up to the honour you've done in inviting me and that I can contribute in some way to the aims of the conference and to the development of the group analytic approach in your work. I also hope that using this technology to talk to you today is good enough, although I know and you know that two-way communication is preferable where possible, but today we'll use this and see how it goes. The title of my talk is Using Group Analysis in Therapeutic Work, Consulting to Organisations and Educational Projects. And I want to start by suggesting that there are some aspects of group analysis that apply in all these settings, and also that the attitude of the group analyst is essentially the same in any setting. What differs is the purpose of the group, the subject matter, the kinds of intervention made by the conductor, and the length of time over which the group meets. I'll return to these differences, but first I want to set out those aspects of group analysis that apply in any group, where the aim is to use the group to help the members learn about themselves and others in some way. One of the core principles of group analysis is that healthy functioning depends on free-flowing communication. This can apply equally to an individual, a group, or an organisation. Diagnostic and restorative work focus on identifying blocks to communication and opening up communication between isolated parts. Fuchs describes as an important landmark the route taken from the autistic, non-communicating nature of the symptom to the more and more articulate recognition and formulation of the problem underlying the symptom. The symptom in an individual may be anxiety or depression. In a group, it may be silence or avoiding the task. In an organisation, it might be high absenteeism or low productivity. In each case, underlying this symptom is often a failure of or resistance to communication. Information about feelings or experience in one part of the person, the group, or the organisation is not reaching other parts, and as a result, the system as a whole becomes dysfunctional. You'll see that I'm using the language of systems, and there's a lot in common between this aspect of group analysis and systems theory. A second principle is that the individual is seen as a nodal point in the network of communication in the group, representing not only him or herself, but also an aspect of the whole group. In group analysis, this means that all communication is meaningful, including asides, jokes, or whispers. Each contribution represents a point of view that exists at some level in the group as a whole. A silent member may have a point of view that they feel can't be spoken about, and this could point to a particular block in communication in the group. I want also to bring in here Fuchs' concept of the mirror reaction. To quote Fuchs, a person sees himself or part of himself reflected in the interactions of other group members. He sees them reacting in the way he does himself or in contrast to his own behaviour. He gets to know himself, and this is a fundamental process in ego development, by the effect he has on others and the picture they form of him. Another principle concerns the attitude of the group conductor and a flexible style of leadership. The conductor listens with interest to everything that is said, with even hovering attention to the group as a whole and to the contribution of each member. The goal of the conductor is, over time, to de-escalate his or her position as an authority figure, while recognizing that groups have different needs at different stages of their development. The general progress of the group and its members is from dependence on a leader authority towards autonomy, and the conductor allows him or herself to be put on a pedestal or taken off as the group requires, changing from being the leader of the group to a leader in the group. This flexibility in leadership style is also important in responding to the level of anxiety in the group. In a group experiencing very high anxiety or trauma, directive, authoritative leadership may be needed to enable the group to contain the anxiety and avoid fragmenting. In a well-functioning group with manageable anxiety, where creative contributions are flourishing, a style of leadership is needed that is low-key, facilitating and democratic. Group analysis encourages this flexible approach to the leadership needs of the group. A final aspect of the conductor's role I need to mention is dynamic administration. This involves managing the external factors which influence the effectiveness of a group, including the suitability of the room the group meets in, consistency in the time, place and membership of the group, and maintaining a good relationship with the host organisation. In some settings, the group analyst may have to work hard at dynamic administration to ensure there are reliable boundaries that the members can have confidence in. Well, so much for the similarities across groups in different settings. As I've said earlier, the differences between therapeutic group analysis and other applications are in the purpose of the group, the subject matter or types of problems members bring, in the kinds of interventions made by the conductor, and in how long the group meets, and therefore the depth to which it can go. In a therapeutic group, the members bring their personal problems or symptoms. The aim is to use the group process to reveal and understand the meaning or purpose of a symptom and to put it into words. As Fuchs famously said, the symptom mumbles to itself, hoping to be overheard. The group meets once or twice a week for long enough periods for members to develop trust in the group and for emotional regression to occur, perhaps for 2 or more years. The conductor, with an attitude of quiet interest, listening and looking with hovering attention to individual members and to the group as a whole, intervenes at times to help the group explore the meaning of what's going on. In a workbook of group analytic interventions, we categorise the interventions that group analysts use. The main ones are maintaining all the relevant boundaries, such as time, place and membership and tasks that the group pursues. Open facilitation, encouraging members to interact and ask each other questions. Guided facilitation and interpretation. As a general principle, as far as possible, the conductor points the way, guides the group rather than leads the group. More detailed definitions can be found in the book. One important difference between therapeutic and non-therapeutic uses of group analysis is in the interpretation of unconscious processes. For example, the transference of previous relationships onto the conductor or other group members. In therapy, these processes may be interpreted, but not in an educational or an organizational setting. Here, the conductor seeks to minimize unconscious processes by maintaining an adult-to-adult style of relating, encouraging everyday, here and now interactions between group members. However, unconscious processes can still occur quite strongly in non-therapeutic settings, and the conductor should be prepared for this. In an organizational context, the purpose of a group is to address a problem of the organization, such as absenteeism, sickness, low morale, which may be the symptom of an underlying problem. or to support the staff at difficult times, for example, during a period of change or after a crisis. The group analyst who is asked to help in this way must spend time on dynamic administration, establishing the aims, limits and boundaries of the work. Key issues include who is asking for the help, do they have the authority to commit the resources required. The choice of who to invite to meetings is another question. Also finding out if there are different perceptions about what the problem is and what help is needed. And the aims of the consultation, whether these are overt or whether there are also covert hidden aims. It's important that enough time and effort are spent on these questions to give the work a reasonable chance of success, although nothing can be guaranteed. Here are some brief examples. 1. A student nurse on a psychiatric ward asked for a staff support group. Some of the staff were enthusiastic, but the ward manager had not been consulted and did not support the group. This meant that meetings were often cancelled due to staff shortages, and after a few months the conductor gave up and the group stopped. 2. A senior social worker was asked to support the staff of a child protection team after the tragic death of a child in their care. She was asked to see them in a remote place, away from the workplace, and her request for the agreed payment was not acknowledged for a long time. She felt that the covert aim, the hidden aim, was that she was being asked to take the problem away and make it disappear, and she needed to bring this perception back to the organisation to make them aware of it. 3. A weekly staff support group for staff of a children's hospice ran for many years. Valued at first as a safe place for staff to share their feelings, support each other, overcome feelings of isolation and nurture the new staff. But over time the group was resented by some other staff who saw it as a substitute for the clinical supervision they felt they needed but were not getting. Following an evaluation of the support available to the hospice staff, the director of the hospice invited the group conductor to help in developing new arrangements that combined open staff groups with small group supervision. These 3 brief examples illustrate some of the difficulties in this work and also the importance of the relationship with those in charge of the organisation. I want now to talk about the work of Jane Abercrombie, which offers excellent examples of the use of group analysis in an educational setting. In her work with medical students, she used small groups to improve their use of the scientific method, in particular being able to use their observations to make accurate diagnoses. She wrote that the difficulties seemed to be connected with the students' perception of their own relationship to knowledge through their relationship with the teachers. It was the authority dependency situation that needed to be modified, she wrote. She wanted students to come to their own conclusions about the information that they were presented with. For example, contrasting 2 radiographs, rather than rely on the teacher to tell them the correct answer. By getting the students to share their judgments in group discussions, they learn to challenge and test hypotheses and evaluate them on their merits, rather than rely on the authority of the speaker. Abercrombie pointed out that these groups differed from therapeutic groups in being focused on a particular topic and in encouraging contact between members outside the group. However, they resembled therapy groups in the way that all contributions on any matter were encouraged, nothing said was deemed to be irrelevant, and in the way the conductor minimized their own authority and aimed to create, in her words, a supportive, non-threatening climate in which constant challenge to habitual ways of thinking was tolerable. Another educational project was to help university teachers improve their methods of small group teaching. This followed widespread dissatisfaction with didactic teaching methods in higher education. The teachers knew how to give lectures and tutorials, but they were at a loss about how to manage small group teaching sessions because they were always used to leading the discussion. She describes how she set up the training to resemble the situation the teachers might use with their own students, and how, as the conductor, she encouraged interaction between the teachers rather than depending on her as an authority figure. The reports of their experience by the participants are revealing. I will quote some of them at length, as I think they show very well how a group analytic approach can be of great benefit in a setting which is not for therapy, but where sensitivity to others and self-awareness are valuable and valued qualities. The first participant wrote, "In student seminar groups, I used to feel I was a failure if I failed to show myself in charge, and I tended to dominate any group, probably to reinforce my own confidence, without any idea that this expression of confidence and competence might in any way be disruptive to the discussion. I feel I have now more hope of being able to encourage the less confident in a group to talk, and the more confident not to dominate." Next quote, "I know it's no longer so important to me to be constantly reassured that students like me, nor for that matter is it so important for me to like them personally." Next, "Instead of viewing a group as an opportunity for students to understand my thinking on a topic, I now regard them as opportunities for students to clarify, communicate, and understand their own ideas about a topic. I'm much more silent in groups of students and try, with varying degrees of success, to behave less didactically than I used to. Previously, I used to tell students what I thought they should think, and I hope I have now developed some capacity for finding out where the students are at and showing them how to take the next step. I've also become aware that there are many emotional problems to be overcome in communication between students and staff." I think these quotations demonstrate the value of a group analytic approach to the process of learning, developing member self-awareness, and improving the skills of teachers. In conclusion, I've tried to give you some idea of how group analysis can be used in different settings. I've suggested that some aspects of group analysis and the role of the conductor apply in any setting: therapeutic, educational, organisational. These include the principle that a healthy organism is one with free-flowing communication between its parts, that all communication is meaningful, that members of a group can see themselves mirrored in the behaviour of other members, that the role of the conductor is to de-escalate his or her authority and encourage the group towards autonomy, and to be mindful of the importance of dynamic administration to the success of the group. I've also illustrated some of the differences in the application of group analysis in different settings. These include the length of time for which the group meets, the range of topics discussed in the group, and the level at which the conductor makes their interpretation. For example, interpreting or guiding the group towards understanding unconscious processes in a therapy group, but maintaining an adult-to-adult level of communication in non-therapeutic settings. And finally, noting the importance of dynamic administration and the relationship with the host organisation. I believe the application of a group analytic approach in non-therapeutic settings can help individuals in their work roles and in how they function together as a team, changing the way they relate with authority discovering how they are seen by others, learning how their behaviour affects others and how they are affected by them, exploring how they relate to the groups they are part of. These types of learning have great relevance in areas of work where relationships influence the quality and outcome of the work. Group analysis does not offer a panacea, a cure-all, for the complex problems faced in a working environment, but it does provide a rich and perhaps unique opportunity for us to recognise the powerful impact we have on each other and on the atmosphere in the workplace. Thank you and have a good conference.